Hello and welcome to the Meet Penn's Professors podcast. I am your host, Nicolas Scola, and today I am joined by a very special guest, Dr. Darin Kapanjie. Dr. Kapanjie is a professor of statistics at the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. He received his Bachelor of Arts in Mathematics from the University of Delaware and his Master of Education from Widener University. He earned his doctorate in education from Temple University and taught at the Fox School of Business. He is an author and is also the owner of Wave Car Wash in Colmar and Chadds Ford, Pennsylvania. Thank you, Dr. Kapanjie, for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for inviting me, Nicholas. I'm really excited and honored to be here. Really, truly.
Of course, and we're really eager to talk to you about your career. So let's start by diving into your background. Take us through your career up to this point.
It's a funny story. So when my undergrad, as you mentioned, I went to Delaware and I was studying math at Delaware, and I wanted to be a high school teacher. That was, my career path. And I did teach high school for a couple of years, but quickly realized that wasn't my calling. I did my first master's at Widener in education, and then I wasn't sure if I was. This is going to sound bad. I wasn't sure if I was like smart enough to teach in college. So I went back and did an MS in math at Shippensburg, and I just quit everything and just went. I did it in a year. I did an MS in a year out there, and then while I was teaching there, I already had my first master's. Or while I was studying at Shippensburg, I already had my first master's. So I started teaching at community college out there in Harrisburg. And then when I finished that, I landed a full-time gig down at Lynchburg College, now Lynchburg University, in Central Virginia. It was beautiful down there. It's just such a gorgeous area in the middle of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And it was so much fun. So I spent 2 years down there teaching. So I knew that, I was like, okay, I'm good enough to teach in college. And I was going to do my PhD at University of South Carolina in math. Applied mathematics, but some personal life things. It's actually a woman who was the mother of my children that brought me back to the Philadelphia area and landed a job at Temple, and I taught there for 20 years. And while I was at Temple, I got involved with teaching. So Temple, so back up, I was a mathematician teaching in a business school in a statistics department. So it's like I didn't really fit, but I was teaching applied calculus. I started in that area and then transitioned to, the statistics. But while I was there, I got into a lot of educational technology and teaching online and online resources and tools and whatnot. And long story short, I built this online and digital learning team, and we had built a great online MBA program and an undergraduate online program. And I had a huge staff that worked for me of instructional designers, video editing, video staff. We had this recording studio, and we recorded this really different style of lecture videos. And we built like a flipped classroom that really helped the entire school. It wasn't just for the online space. We really transitioned the entire Fox School of Business to a great, what I thought was like a flipped classroom style. So we had like all lecture materials in a compressed format online, and we built this. I called it I named it our Video Vault. So it was like our own little personal YouTube that had we recorded thousands and thousands of faculty lecture videos. So it was really, it was really cool, really cool. And then some things happened. I can get into the craziness of that, but some things happened. I stepped away from my leadership roles there and just focused on teaching. And when I did that, I had a lot of time on my hands because I was just teaching 2 days a week. I was teaching those courses forever. I could teach them, with my eyes closed. I taught large sections. I had like 750 students a semester. It was a lot, but it was fun. But I had all this time, and then I started getting into the car wash industry. I noticed there was a hole in the market. So sorry, back up. The online MBA, there was a hole in the market in the online MBA space. There was some programs out there, but they weren't really like good programs. They were basically like electronic correspondence courses. And our online MBA that we built had real-time collaboration through like Zoom like this. It was WebEx at the time, but it was very innovative. Like at the time, we launched it in 2009. So we were like on the cutting edge of web conferencing tools, what is that, 15 years ago, when people didn't even know what web conferencing was 15 years ago. So we had like regular synchronous online collaborative classes and anyway, it's great, great program. But again, hole in the market, right? There was a hole in the market. Weren't good online MBA programs. We built it, and it was ranked number one in the country for 3 years in a row. It was really great. Turns out that those rankings weren't real. My dean was like lying about the numbers, and that's what I'm saying. That's the craziness. So he was lied about the numbers. There was this whole big like trial. He ended up like going to jail. His first academic ever to get convicted of a crime and like sentenced to jail. It was so bad. But that's why I stepped away from those roles. I was an academic. He was lying about admissions numbers and things of that nature, things I wasn't involved with. But recognize a hole in the market in the car wash industry out here on the East Coast. There was this model that was very popular and very lucrative in the South and out West. And it didn't quite get here to the Northeast. So like the express car wash model with free vacuums and towels and membership base. I wanted to bring that model here to the Northeast, and that's how I got involved with the car wash industry. And now I have two car washes, developing a third. And then also I have an express lube business that just kind of like fell on my lap too, and a detail business. Yeah, pretty crazy path, but it's a really fun one, and really enjoy the mix of teaching and real world business and bringing in like the real world business examples and data into the classroom. And it's just so much fun. I feel like I'm like just at a really good place right now, like, better than I've ever been before. And my transition to Penn, sorry, I was at Temple for 20 years. And my transition to Penn, Temple things like weren't like going too well, and I had the opportunity to adjunct here at Penn in spring of, was it 22? I think it was 22 or 23. I can't recall. But when I taught that course, my first course here, I basically took everything that I've learned from teaching and business and started developing a course like from scratch, like I'd never taught before. I didn't use any resources that I ever had before, and just like took all of my stuff and just built this. I thought it was a pretty amazing course. It was a real lot of fun. Actually, I ended up getting a teaching award for teaching that course, the first semester like teaching here, which was like really, it was really amazing. But Yeah, it's been really neat. So now, like marrying the teaching and the business, and it's just been a real lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a
But that's
very
a long
unique.
answer. That's a
Yeah.
long answer.
No, it's great. I love the detail, and it's a very unique path. I recall you t touching upon a lot of the hurdles that you've faced in starting your business. What did you draw upon as a source of inspiration during these low points?
I just really like doing cool stuff. And there's going to be in life and in everything. I mean, there's challenges. Like it's not easy. And business and life. I mean, it's just not like for the faint of heart, I guess. And like businesses are hard. So I have my businesses. I mean, I don't know how much they're worth. I know how much debt I'm in, but like multi-million-dollar stuff. And I started with like $40,000, and just like a vision. And went out and like found the resources and found the right people to connect with and network, and between realtors or investors, banks, really just put a really good team together to help like get through the hurdles. It's tough. Yeah, it's the first site that I was going to develop. You pick out a site. There's so many things to picking out a site, right? You got to have good traffic. You got to have good visibility. By good traffic, I mean not just people go and buy it, because there's some sites that have good people come and buy it, but it's all commuter, like nobody lives around it, right? So you could have like 40,000 people passing your site every day, but within a 3 mile radius, there's only like, 10,000 people that live there. So, that's like, all right, that's just a commuter way, right? So, but the first site that I was going to develop, I was such a great site. I had great visibility, not much competition in the area. Excuse me. And I mean, it just checked all the boxes. And we were going through the process of development, getting the zoning, which is really hard because car wash zoning, it's a unique zoning, like a gas station, right? Because once you build a car wash there, it's not like they're going to convert it into a Starbucks afterwards, right? It's a really
Yeah.
unique special case. So to get the zoning for it it's a challenge. And when you try to get zoning, you have all the public come and like nobody wants anything done. You're always going to have people that come and are going to fight against it. So it was really hard to get the zoning and do everything right. We got it all right. And I spent, oh man, I think it was like $200,000 on this site. And then come to learn it was like a dump back in the day. We do soil tests. And we do a soil test, like just drill a hole like this, and hey, soil looks good here. But then when you go to dig, it's like you find some other things. And we found so many problems with the site that it just wasn't buildable. It was going to cost like over $1 million just in dirt work to get the site to get even close to be able to like start to develop. Um, so we had to walk from it, and it was a really difficult thing. I spent like a year and a half and $200,000 on a project that I had to walk away from, and it was really really difficult. But I could have just walked away and said, "All right, swing and a miss. This industry isn't good for me." But found another opportunity in that Colmar location, as you mentioned, which was an existing wash. It was an existing wash and lube. And that's how I got into the lube business. My tenants there were so bad that when their lease was up, I just had to, not renew their lease, and it just made sense to just put it all under the same umbrella. So now on that Colmar site, we have the car wash and the lube and a detail business all under the Wave umbrella. So it's nice. Um, but that opportunity was really good because it was an existing wash. So getting into the industry, it was like I didn't have to start building everything from scratch and like learn everything. It was already there. So it was a really great way to get into the market. And then the second one, there was a fire, and it was an existing wash, but we basically like gutted it. We left the walls, and then redeveloped that one. And the third one is just from scratch. It's just a dirt, and we're going to build up. So it's nice progression into the industry. First one existing, second one kind of existing, but we had to gut everything, and then the third one is going to be greenfield ground up development. So, but to answer your question, there's challenges, man. There's challenges. It's just like you can, like I said on that first one, you can just fold, or take a step back, learn from it, and push forward again. And I think I find that motivation because I really like doing cool stuff, and I don't like losing. I don't like losing. Tell me I can't do something, and that's going to motivate me to do it even more. But that's part of like just my personal personality, I guess.
Yeah, that's great. I'm curious, what's the time frame from breaking ground on a new car wash to having it fully complete? And what's the learning curve like on operating a car wash?
Great question. So we got to go before that, because before you break ground, there's at least probably a year and a half of approvals and zoning. And I mean, in Pennsylvania, it's PennDOT, the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. You got to get traffic studies, because you can't like build a site and then not be able to run it well enough where you're not having traffic like fold out or trickle out onto the road. So they're PennDOT approvals, the traffic studies and all that stuff. That's like a year in and of itself. So that's a long process. Once you get all your approvals and your permits and whatnot, it's 9 to 12 months for development. So it's really like conservatively the 2.5 year process to start a car wash, from beginning to end. So it's long.
Wow.
Um, and so the hurdles of figuring out how to operate it. So my biggest challenge was the staffing. I did not, so I'm used to working with academics or people with like master's degrees, like on my online digital learning team that I had at Temple. I had like 20 some staff. it worked for me and all, college degrees and whatever. And then going to work with people that are making like, 15, $13 an hour. It's just a different mindset. And it was really difficult for me to understand that mindset. It's just like you tell someone to do it and they, do it. Well, not there. And it was tough to find ways to motivate people and find out what, really like motivated that level of staff, an employee. And that was my biggest challenge. That was my biggest challenge. Um, but when I started, I mean, I went all in. Like I was at that car wash. It was great because it happened during like post-COVID, so everyone was teaching like online still. So I was able to like live at the car wash in the beginning. I taught at Temple. I said 2 days a week. I was teaching online. I was teaching online from the car wash, and then when I wasn't teaching, I was able to do everything else in the other 5 days a week because it's like a 7 day a week. I mean, you don't like get into it. Well, I don't get into a business and just think it's like 9 to 5. 5 days a week. It's not like that at all. Um, but I was able to really like live out there, and I learned every aspect of the business from the chemicals. I was not I knew nothing about electrical or plumbing, hydraulic motors. I didn't know what a hydraulic motor was. Now I could basically take one apart and put it back together, I mean, I go like that all in because I want to know all the different elements. And now that we're expanding, and I know all the different facets of it, I can like delegate and delegate intelligently. So it's been good. It's a long process, but the end game is worth it. As you probably heard me say in class, is the juice worth the squeeze. I love that expression because I'm like spread so thin with all the different things that I do. I really have to think about like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is
For
the
sure.
is
Yeah.
the output worth the effort in anything like that I do? Because it's not. If it's not, then it's like I don't want to say like don't waste my time, but don't waste my time. Right? I'm not
For
going to waste
sure.
my
Yeah.
time. Yeah. So
I know in
yeah.
class we've worked with like a lot of statistical models in relation to the car wash. There's been a lot of car wash examples. How often are you using stats on the daily in the car wash industry?
Not as much as I should. Not as much as I should, and it's really a shame because, and that's an area. Actually, I just hired an intern from Penn actually to be working on me with the data stuff because I know like all of what to do. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do it, but I just don't have the time to do it. So that's an area now that I'm starting to delegate because there's so much. And I do like some, but I'm probably doing maybe like it's just a fraction of what I could and should be doing to be accelerating the businesses. But it's still like I'm still on I'm what like th 3 years in, but it's still like that sounds like a long time, but it's not. And I'm still still learning. So yeah, not nearly as much as I should. To be honest, like I pull like most of my data and analysis I do for the teaching stuff as opposed to like to accelerate the business. I know that sounds bad. I just haven't had the time, but I love being able to pull in real world examples like for you guys like in class. So it's definitely a focus moving forward. I'm starting with, an intern from Penn, and that will, I'm sure, lead into, a full-time position, if not more, as we grow.
You
So
touched,
that's one of those
yeah, of
things about delegating, right? I mean, that's, one of the things
course,
I need to delegate.
of course,
But it's the hardest one for me to delegate because I can do it all. I just don't have the time,
for
you know?
sure. You've touched upon a lot of the hurdles of starting your business. What's been the most rewarding aspect?
Um, the customer experience, when they, are satisfied with the product, and are, happy. I mean, because that's what it's all about. So the one of the reasons why I got in the industry, I mean, it's all numbers, right? It's all numbers. Like first of all, like getting a site, traffic count, population density. There's so many variables that you look at, but it's all statistical. Your tunnel length. How fast your chain speed is, which means pushing like the cars through, your chemical usage per car, like everything. It's all numbers. It's all statistics and data, which is why like I really like was able to embrace it. But one of the things I learned early on, the number one people the number one reason why people wash their car, excuse me, is it makes them happy, right? So I'm making people happy. Because I mean, yeah, hey, you get your car clean. It's like, oh, it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling to have like,
Sure.
a
Yeah.
clean experience. So, we embrace that feel good, philosophy in everything, that we do, from our customer service experience, from, the ease of use of, coming up and having a transaction, or if you're a member, and like our app, like just everything is all like customer centered. And at the end of the day, I mean, that's what I'm trying to do, is like just, make people feel better about their day. So just turns out that we make some good money doing it too. But I mean, so it's like the perfect balance. But
And on that note, what's your 10-year vision for Wave?
that's a great question. Um, I wanted to get these three humming, and like by humming, I mean like running to the optimal efficiency. And I'm not like there yet because the third one's still under development. So I mean, it could be, 10, 15. These things, also like sell at a really good multiplier. And if someone comes in, and offers us like, money that it would take us 10 years to do that, then we'd walk and find something else like fun to do. So I just don't know. I would say either, build up to 10 sites in the Delaware County area. Because after that, it just gets unwieldy and unmanageable. For someone like myself, I would need like a much bigger team. And it's like, you get to that point of yeah, point of no return, right? Is what I would call it, where it just gets, where you got to just invest like too much um, infrastructure and staff and all that stuff. So I would say 10 is my sweet spot. But at the same time, if there's private equity and so much money in this space, because the hardest thing about the car washes is getting them open. Once you got them open, they're basically printing money. I mean, the margins are so large, so large. So like the cost of washing a car is like $4, and we're charging like $20, right? So you're making like $16 like per car. There's a lot of upfront costs. I mean, my the second site that I did where I tore it down and developed, I mean, that was a $6 million investment and project. So it's a really big nut to get started. But once you do, that's what I'm saying. The hardest part is getting them started, and then they're just like they like print money. So. Yeah, so it's hard to develop, but um, so if somebody comes in and offers us like, a big chunk of change for where we're at with the ones that we have, it would be a consideration, but and then just find something else like fun to do. But I really, really like this industry, and that would be a hard thing. It would be a hard thing to do. It'd have to be like a really nice number. People call me at least twice a week. Hey, is your car
Wow.
wash for sale? Your car wash for sale? Like, don't come to me asking me for car wash for sale. Come to me with a number that is astronomical and like that I'm going to walk for. Otherwise, don't waste my time. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry. That sounds bad.
Um, no,
Horrible.
no, not at all. I'm really curious because a lot of students at Wharton probably envision themselves in careers in finance, but I would say a good number also see themselves as maybe future business owners. What are key pieces of advice that you would give to a prospective new business owner?
You got to be hungry. You got to be passionate. You can't be afraid to fail. Know you're going to fail. You're you're going to fail a lot, and you got to be able to learn from your mistakes and failure and move on. I mean, investor pitches. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's really really low. Mine actually have been like really great. But I mean, if you present to like 100 investors, maybe you'll get like one or two. And that's a really bad failure rate. And it's not, I mean, it's not, sometimes it's just not the right time or the right whatever. I mean, you got to know that like going in, but yeah, you got to be hungry. You got to be passionate. You got to love it. If you don't love it, like it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Um, so yeah, you got to be hungry and passionate. Hungry
Got
and
it.
passionate.
So this is a question I like to ask to everyone who comes on the podcast. If you're comfortable sharing, what's been the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome in your life?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. Because, I mean, I said that like ranking scandal, that was a tough one. That was a real tough one because, I was a statistics professor and the academic leader of the program. So like everyone like looked at me like, it was my doing, which, obviously it wasn't at all. But that was a tough one. Um, Losing that first site to $200,000 and walking away from that was really tough too. That was really tough too. Um, so yeah, I think yeah. So, and I mean on the professional side, they're two pretty big ones. I mean, the ranking scandal, that was really tough. That was really tough. So, it was like this, my baby. I mean, I built it from like the ground up. It was like nothing. And, we had like started with like 10 students once a year to bringing in 100 students 3 times a year. And it was just such an amazing program and great. If my dean didn't lie, we still would have been in the top 10, I think top five. And it's like, you're so stupid. Like, why
Yeah,
would you do that? It's just so, so stupid. Um, that was really, really tough to walk away from all of what I built and just see it crumble. That was tough.
yeah, for sure. For
Wow.
sure.
But now look where I'm at. I'm teaching you guys, the great guys at like Penn. And it's just, really, really neat experience in the way that, that if that didn't happen, I never would have gotten into the car wash industry. So like it's just like look at, how
Yeah,
everything, like I said, you get knocked down, but you got to pick yourself up, you know?
for sure. And I personally believe everything in life happens for a reason. It truly does.
Yeah.
In class, you've touched on the need for balance in life, and I think balance is something that sometimes people spend a lifetime trying to find, but they never do. So as a teacher, a father, and a business owner, how have you been able to strike a balance in your life?
I don't sleep. I shouldn't say that. No, I average like 3 to 4 hours a night, maybe. Um, but I go out and I have fun and I do fun things like all the time. Like you probably heard me, like I went to the Venom movie like opening night, Friday night. Like I love to go to the movies. I go to a lot of sporting events for students and like I love going to the Sixers games. I'm doing this like dance thing right now with this neighbor friend of mine. Which is really, really cool, like ballroom dancing. So I'm like, so I just always like to do as much as my mind is focused on school and work. It's just as focused. I don't want to say focused on. I mean, I just like to have fun. I like to work hard and play hard. And being smart about my time, about when I can work and when I can have fun. And even sometimes when I'm having fun, I'm still like doing work, because you're never off. Like as a business owner, you're never off. And you got to understand that and understand that like I don't need to be in front of a computer and like working like all the time. I can be at the gym and still be doing work. It sounds crazy, but it's like, in between sets, I'll be like, answering texts or emails or like whatever. Or if I'm on like the treadmill, I'm like working while I'm like on the treadmill, right? But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I think some people it's like harder to do that, but just where I'm at in my like life and career, like personally and professionally and all that stuff, like it just works. It just works. But balance is definitely needed because you got to have fun, man. You only go around this place once, and it's not about work. Work is but I really don't consider what I do as work. I know like people say that, oh, like, if you really love your job, it's not considered work. I really don't. Like it's so much fun. And I'm really like enjoying and passionate about it. So almost like my work is like fun too. So and I mean, I'm impacting and changing people's lives, both my staff and my um, customers and everything, and you guys. So it's like you're just making an impact. So that's like fun and rewarding too. So it's all
For sure.
fun. My whole life is fun.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I totally agree. I think, like I said, striking a balance is really hard, but it's necessary, or else people end up burning out, and that's never good. I wanna I wanna ask you about your time thus far at Wharton. What's been the most rewarding aspect of teaching here at Wharton?
Interacting with people like yourself and doing a lot of the extracurricular things, like going to the sporting events or went to the I want to say the play. I forget what the man. I forget the group. I'm so embarrassed. Um, I want to say like Wig Hat, but it's not Wig Hat. The comedy musical comedy group at Penn. I got invited to go to that. Get invited to do lunches with students. I love going to the events. So like all of those types of things that at the outside of class um, um, engagement is the most rewarding. Absolutely.
I wanna end off on a fun question. Um, you're obviously a big Philly sports fan. What's your prediction for the rest of the Eagles season and the 76er season since it just started up?
Man, well, the Eagles, it's so hard to tell. So hard to tell.
Yeah.
I mean, the last 2 weeks they finally, well, after the second quarter and midway through the second quarter last week, they, turned it on. I think they really got the potential to be great, and I'm glad that they didn't start off like 10-0 and they started off like a little bit rough. But if they like get everything together, I mean, I think they could go all the way again. I really, really do. I think they've got the tools to do that, and if they get the right defensive strategy in place, then they'll be solid. Sixers are so hard, man. They're so hard. They're so hard. Embiid's always hurt. And I'm watching now, and it's like Maxey and who like right now because
Yeah.
Embiid and Drummond or Embiid and George are out. I mean Drummond's not much of. I mean he's a good backup to Embiid, but it's just I love him, but I just don't trust him. I just don't trust him.
I,
But I'm still
I
gonna go, and I'm
yeah.
still gonna be there, and I'm still gonna support him. But there's not a lot of trust there.
I went to the game 6 of the playoffs last semester because I'm a Knicks fan, and I went into the Hornets nest, and it's I don't know. I feel like every season it looks really promising, and then you get to the playoffs, and then you never know with the injuries. But the Eagles, I think the Eagles will end up doing well. I'm a Jets fan, so oh my goodness, it's been
Well,
such
you
a
had a
mess.
good game last night, at least.
Yeah, they had a good game, but oh
Or a good win anyway. Good second half, I should say.
yeah, the
Uh,
expectations were up here, and then reality has just it's
yeah,
hit
I
us
just
in
don't know
the
if
face.
Aaron Rodgers is it, man. I liked him early in his career, but just I don't know. His mentality, I think, is I don't know. Not the
I
guy
heard something
from a,
interesting. Yeah, I heard something interesting. His process is not the same as some of the other quarterbacks who lasted into their 40s. Like Brady was just intent on figuring out a process to keep his body, well conditioned throughout his 40s. And even Manning had a really strict regimen, but Rodgers, because I think he's always had a little bit more of natural talent, he just has, not really invested as much time. That's something I heard. I don't know if it's exactly true, but yeah, I feel like his personality sort of gets in the way sometimes.
it is, and that's tough because you're the leader of your team,
For
and the
sure.
leader with that mentality from your number one leader on your team. I just don't know if that's a good recipe for success. And I mean they'll
Yeah.
win some games and they'll have some good times and whatnot, but I don't know that they're going to be in the playoffs, or if they're in the playoffs, they'll be out quick.
Yeah.
I mean they basically got to win out, right? They're 3-6. I mean 10-6 might make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they need to win at least seven. I think there's 8 more games left. 7 out of the 8 they have to
Yeah,
win
yeah,
to
they have
get
to win
in,
7 of the 8.
probably.
Well, the only tough one left is the Bills.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, it's every given Sunday. You never know.
That's right.
I
That's
do want
right.
to I do want to ask about the Eagles Super Bowl win. What was like the Philly area like after that?
Ah, man, that was insane. That was nuts. Because I mean, first one. And to do it with a backup like a quarterback and to beat Tom Brady, and Tom Brady threw for like 400 yards or something like that in that game, but like it was still like, it was nuts. It was just nuts, nuts. I feel like Nick Foles just and everything it was just meant to be. I mean, that Philly special, that play was, I think, like epitomizes like how that postseason went, with a backup quarterback beating the greatest quarterback like of all time at the peak of his career, and the best
Sure.
like coach of all time. I mean, at the peak of his career, it's crazy, crazy to think that. I mean, it was the best way to win. It's the best way to win. You don't want to, beat like some scrub team. I mean, you do. I mean, it doesn't matter, but it's just a better. It's just so much
Oh,
sweeter.
for sure.
Um, so much sweeter to beat. It seemed like the Patriots. So it was nuts. And then the Phillies when they won in '08, that was nuts too. I mean, 80 to '08, that was a really crazy, neat experience as well. I mean, there's nothing like winning a championship, man. There's nothing like. I mean, as a Jets fan, you don't know what that's like.
I know.
Knicks fan, it hasn't been in your lifetime.
Nope.
But no, when they do, oh my gosh, it's such an amazing feeling. I don't know if I shared with you guys in the class one time. I went to a World Series game, when they were playing Houston and they lost, but the game I was at, man, when I was in the stadium, like I seriously, it sounds crazy, but you felt positive energy. Like never before in my life. Like you could act like in the stadium, it was like there was just this aura and you like literally like felt it. It's like so it's so crazy, but it was just so nuts. And it was like it's just fun, it's fun.
For
So
sure.
sports are fun. Sports are fun. I love sports.
For sure. And I have to say, I know like especially Giants versus Eagles and Knicks versus 76ers, like the two fan bases, they don't always get along, but I think they're the most passionate fan bases in all of sports, Philly and
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
really it's always special when they face off. I must say that Sixers playoff game, my goodness, it was something. The
It's,
energy, it was great.
yeah,
Really
yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah. It's neat.
Well, thank you, Dr. Kapanjie. So happy that you were able to join us today and
Yeah, thanks,
I
Nicholas.
love
It
this
was
conversation.
really, yeah, this is really a neat experience, and good luck with the podcast. And I wish you nothing but the best. And look forward to seeing you in class next week.
Thank you.